All right, everyone. We are in room A. No, we're not. We're in, just kidding. We are in room B for Substack 101 for newbies. What you need to know if you want to gain an audience. If that's not where you intended to be right now, please go back, look at the schedule, and go to the other room. I am super excited about this. I had Claire on the podcast a while back and was like, you got to come talk about this, and so many people have been asking about specifically about Substack and how to get started and all of that stuff. So we are so excited to have you here. As a reminder, please use the Q&A box for questions. We'll get to questions at the end of the presentation. And that's all I have to say. So we're going to pass the reins over to you. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexa. I'm Claire Tech, and I'm very excited to be here. I've gone to the conference a couple of years in a row now, and yeah, I'm just really excited to speak about Substack. This is something that kind of came up in last year's conference, and a lot of women seem to have questions about it. So anyway, that was the whole impetus for today's talk. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? All right. This is Substack 101, what you need to know if you want to gain an audience. Um, First, I'd like to just kind of give you a brief background about me. I am a marketer, I'm a writer, I'm a content strategist with about 15 years experience in the tech industry. I have experience creating content strategies and building out editorial website material for large and small startups. I've been freelancing for the last few years, consulting for tech companies and marketing agencies, mostly helping them to create organic content for their site. So, anyway, during all that time, I decided to write a memoir about a very difficult time in my life, a divorce, a brother who landed in prison. So I had a story to tell. I just had nowhere to start. And so, given my background in marketing, I just started Googling stuff, as one would do. And I was just very overwhelmed with all of the information that was out there. But like one thing was very clear to me, and it was that you kind of have to market yourself before your book comes out. So that's one big takeaway that I had when I first started researching. So I started my Substack called Memoir Junkie Wannabe Author, and it's wannabe author because I haven't quite published my book yet. But the Substack is, the whole point of it was just to mark my journey into writing my book and to kind of, help people do the same. And I write about, content and content like strategy, what to think about as you're writing your book, my experience and going to like writing classes. And I even wrote about last year's women in publishing, or I think it was my first year. So that was nearly 3 years ago. And when I started, I was completely lost. Like I didn't know how to write a book. I was great at like marketing and like, writing short pieces, but in terms of writing a book, I was overwhelmed. Um, so I started the Substack to kind of just like just start like writing down my entire journey. And to this day I'm still writing newsletters. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of context, and I think it'll help you kind of understand a little bit better as I go through the slides. So today's agenda is what is Substack and why it's a great tool for building an audience, and then simple strategies to grow and engage your audience. So today's talk is an introduction. So it's for beginners. It's for helping you guys understand what Substack is and how you can use it to grow your following. If you are working on a book or if you're just looking to gain an audience in general. So after today, hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what Substack is all about and whether you'd like to use it or not to grow your audience online. So, what what is Substack? Substack is basically a free platform for building an email list. And the reason why Substack is different, and I'll go over this in more detail in the future slides, is sorry, somebody's calling me. Um, so the reason why Substack is like different and special is because A, it's free, and so it's free to use, and you can use it in a blog style. But then instead of publishing to a website like on, WordPress or Squarespace, the what you publish goes directly into people's inboxes. So and it also lands on your Substack homepage as well. But then instead of just publishing it on the page and hoping that people will come and read it, the newsletter actually goes directly into people's inboxes. So I thought that was super cool. They also offer a way for you to create like a paid version, so you could kind of like lock your content. A lot of creators do that as well, and you can set the yearly subscription, you can set the monthly subscription. It's totally up to you. Substack takes a cut, and that's how they kind of make their profits. And then, unlike social media, you own your audience. So, for example, there a few years back, I don't know if anybody remembers this, there was this big hoopla about Instagram and how Instagram had changed their algorithms, and influencers were pissed. They were like, I'm not getting in front of, the audience that I thought I was getting in front of, or, I'm not growing as quickly. Like, what's going on? And, that's unfortunately that's out of our control. And so influencers or people that were using Instagram to grow their audience, they were like, okay, well, maybe I should go use something else. But guess what? When you leave the platform, you cannot take your audience with you. However, on Substack, you can. So like if I wanted to quit Substack tomorrow, there's an email list that I've built. I can just boop download that into a .csv file, and I can take it to wherever I want to. If I want to just use Gmail to start sending people stuff, I could do that if I want, and it's free. So let me move on to the next. So this is just a brief overview, just so that you guys kind of understand. This is how Substack's model works. But for the purposes of today's webinar, I'm only going to focus on the free version, and how to gain a general audience over like paid strategies, because that's like a whole nother that's like a whole nother thing, can of worms. And just for um like for me, I only focus on free. I have some paid subscribers. I probably have like 5 paid subscribers, but like the goal for me was just to build an audience who was genuinely interested in what I had to say, my story, and some of the tips that I give. But Substack's model only makes money when you do. And their subscription model allows you to, set your own prices, as I had mentioned. And then their platform is growing really, really rapidly. So over the last few years, I have noticed that like when I first started on Substack, like Substack shows you on the back end in your dashboard, like where your subscribers are coming from. And a lot of times it would just say Substack. So like people are on Substack, they're searching things, and then they find me, boom, they subscribe. What I noticed in the last year or so is that I'm seeing stuff from Google. So people are doing, Google searches as one does, and they're finding me from Google. And so that tells me that the algorithm, is expanding into search engines, and people are finding me outside of just the Substack platform. So why use Substack? I know I've kind of covered this a little bit already, but it's just a very nice tool to build an audience. So whether you want to promote your book, whether you want to, just promote your personal essays, whether you want to connect with other like-minded writers and readers. I think it's a great platform for creating long-term engaged community. So as I mentioned before, these are the reasons I chose Substack. And just for some background info, I did have a WordPress website that I used for many, many, many years. I still have one for my professional website, just for like consulting and things like that. But for my book and just to promote myself as like a writer and to connect with other writers on the platform, I really prefer Substack because it is built for engagement. So, like I subscribe to other Substacks, and then when they publish their newsletters, I'll comment. Like it encourages commenting, and I don't know if how well versed in the digital world you guys are, but like back in the day, like 15 years ago when I started in the tech industry, I noticed that blogs they had a lot of like comments and it was very open for commenting and things like that even on like company websites. But then what ended up happening was like all like people would like shut down their comments, and it was more of just like people just publishing something but then not really being able to engage. And I feel like Substack's really gone back to um kind of that old school way of just like authentically engaging with people. Like if you like what somebody wrote, then you can, comment on it. And yeah, and then a lot of times they write back. So that's what I like about it. But I chose it because, I wanted to write my memoir. I felt lost. I in taking a bunch of writing classes and attending conferences, I learned that marketing your book is crucial. And then what I learned in the last couple of uh, women in publishing conferences is that I think that's like the hardest thing for a lot of authors. They just don't know where to start, because you're just focused on writing your book, right? And I think, I feel kind of lucky because I do have a background in marketing. So all of this started to sort of make sense for me. As I mentioned before, I researched a bunch of different platforms and I just found that Substack was just like the best way to document my journey. So, if you're thinking about creating a Substack, my biggest advice is get really, really clear on the why. Um, I wanted to grow an audience for the memoir I one day hope to publish. I honestly, I don't even expect to make any money from my book, but I would love it if the audience that I built on Substack was interested in reading it. Um, Now that it's been a few years that I've been on the platform, my why has become so much more than just securing an audience for my book. I've connected with so many great, other Substackers, other writers that I follow and support, and I comment on their newsletters and vice versa. I for like so I'll go a little bit deeper into that in the upcoming slides, but get really really clear on why you want to start the Substack. Like what do you want to share with an audience? What is do you want to share about your upcoming book? Do you want to share about things that you've already written? Maybe even share things about your personal life. I think all of that is okay, and people on Substack do it all the time. But yeah, just start right. My advice would just be to just start kind of like brainstorming almost about like what it is that you want to share with your audience. For me, my main theme was writing. Um, so obviously writing my book, just being, super confused on how to do it. And and then, connecting with other people. And then my content, or the newsletters that I write, they also include things like creating a content strategy, how to grow your followers, and then like every once in a while I'll share like a snippet of like my chapter from my draft, because I do have a lot written. I just it's just kind of all over the place. Anyway, so those are kind of the things that I tend to put in my newsletters. So I would suggest figuring out like a theme. So what's your Substack going to be about? What are you going to offer? Um, because hold on, let me just move this a little bit. Because think about why you subscribe to something, whether it's like, I don't know, like a cooking website, or maybe you have like a YouTube that you follow or something like that. There's always a niche, right? There's always something that they're offering. And it's not just like random content, right? So just start thinking about how you want to like narrow down what it is that you want to offer. Some example themes would obviously be writing, memoirs, marketing, and content creation. These are all things that I do. And then other things that I've seen on Substack, people write about travel, about lifestyle, finance, personal growth, things like that. So this is just to kind of show you. I don't know if anybody's ever been on Substack, but this is just to show you what my site looks like. Um, the beauty of Substack is that it's so simple. Like, you basically just go into settings and then you just kind of like, do a couple things. Like it's just simple. The layout, like they have templates for you. My whole motto is kind of like keep it simple. I don't like a lot of colors and things like that. But anyway, this is just what my site kind of looks like. I love to write about memoirs that I've read because I'm a huge memoir person. Sometimes, I'll write about personal things, but mostly it always goes back to writing. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like. Okay, so let's talk about how to get started, because this part was very daunting. Even for me, as someone that had been in marketing for a long time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be starting something, on my own. And, like you are your brand, right? So um, I had to figure out uh, how am I going to grow an audience? And like what do I write in my first email? So the when you are getting started, I would consider these three things. I think this slide might be a little bit out of order, but it's okay. What I did when I first started was I sent like a separate email from just my Gmail, and I sent it to like, I don't know, like 40 of my friends and family. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing on Substack. Here's the link. I would really like it if you guys could subscribe. So I felt super embarrassed doing it because I'd never done anything like that before. And I felt very vulnerable doing it. But you know what? I got like 35 subscribers when I first started, and it made me feel like, okay, I kind of have like a purpose, where like these emails are going to be going directly into 35 of my friends and family's inboxes. So yeah, it kind of gave me some motivation. So once I got the subscribers, I went ahead and I personalized a little bit of some of the pages on Substack, because the beauty of Substack is that they create like templates for you. So if you set up your Substack, the welcome emails, and when you set up your Substack and you have subscribers and they're like, okay, I subscribe to your site, they get an automatic email that says, hey, you subscribe to Memoir Junkie Wannabe Author. Thank you for subscribing. But that is like kind of a generic message that you can actually tweak. So I did not really know. I just was like going. And it dawned on me like, hey, I should probably personalize some of this stuff. So I did that. I did that with my welcome email. I introduced myself and what readers can expect when they come to my Substack. And then also the welcome page. I think that's a pretty important page. It is a short blurb about who you are and the purpose of your newsletter. And then also your organization on the top part. So do you see this part right here? These are what Substack calls tabs. And it's nice to have those kind of organized. So as you start to create more content, you can start categorizing things as you see fit. And that just helps people to find, certain pieces of content a lot quicker. Um, so, getting started on Substack questions. You probably are wondering at this point, how long is all this going to take? What am I going to write about? How much time will this require? What strategies will help me, grow my following? And then building your email list. Like if you already have an email list, that's the other thing is you can just export that into a .csv file and then you can upload it directly into Substack. Also, if you have an existing website and let's say it's a WordPress website and you are not doing anything with it, there's no engagement, it's just like crickets when you publish stuff that like this is my experience on one of these websites that I had. Um, but I didn't want to necessarily like get rid of the website. I transferred it over to Substack. So this was like a travel website that I had like years ago. And I, just it's like it just felt very like sad for me to just like delete it. Um, because I was paying like 90 bucks a year for WordPress and I was like, you know what? I can just export the whole thing into Substack and then there's ways to do it on the back end and it's pretty easy. It's just a couple clicks of a button. Um, and then again, if you don't have a list, just start small. I started with like 35 subscribers. All right. Uh, for growth essentials. Um, so once you have your, few subscribers here and there, people trickling in, um, these are the things that I did consistently. Um, I created a weekly schedule. So the first 6 months I was on Substack, I banged out a newsletter every single week. It was a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie, because I was working full time and just having that like pressure to produce something every week. It's a lot. So think about your own schedules and think about people have jobs, you have lives, you have children, you have things you need to do. So um, pick something that's manageable. I wanted to do the 6 month route, doing a post every single week because I wanted to kind of quickly grow a following, and that was fine for me. But after the 6 months, I was like, okay, I can let me go back and let me see if I can kind of slow this down a little bit or make my newsletters a little shorter. So you can always adjust as you go along. The other thing that I started noticing, probably within the first like 3 months, was that was the engagement piece of engaging with other creators on Substack. So I was like, just checking out what other memoirists were writing about, what other authors were writing about, and yeah, I would just follow them. And if you're like me and just want like you just really dislike having your emails all over the place, I created a Substack Gmail just so I could subscribe to other Substackers, and it would just filter in and I would just see like, okay, this is what people are doing. And then if I liked it, I would, send them a comment and then they would write back. And then while I think probably in the first like year I was on Substack, Substack created something called Notes. It's their version of Twitter. So basically it's connected to the platform, and you can go on there and people are posting all the time. There's even like a chat function within the Substack platform. You can also create your own podcasts. Like there's so many things you can do, but I don't want to overwhelm people right now. It's like the thing to really think about is just you know what are you going to write about? Like what's your Substack going to be about? Think about how you can create a manageable posting schedule, and then when you have time, be very intentional about like following other people, engaging with them, commenting. You can do this on Notes too. So just like on Twitter, I don't know if you guys remember, but you could like things, you can comment. There's something called restacking. So if you see some like a newsletter that you really like, that someone wrote, at the very top, there's like a circle. And then if you push that button, it'll take you straight to Notes. And you can, just share like, hey, I really liked this, newsletter, kudos, whatever. Um, and that's just a great way to get engagement going, and to get kind of like noticed and just to connect with others. Um, Guest contributions. This one um, was, I think this one was kind of like the next step after I started engaging with other writers. So I noticed like people on Substack, a lot of people, they have their own, they have their podcasts. They like to highlight other writers. So I started following those Substacks, and then somehow, either they were saying they had open submissions for if you want to like guest post on there, or if you want to be a guest on their podcast, things like that. And so I appeared on a number of podcasts, and I did some guest posting, and I did some collaborations and things like that, and that really helped to get my name out there. And if you notice like a larger publication that is accepting submissions, go ahead and like follow them, see what they're posting, and then if they are open for submissions, like, I would suggest to connect and see if you can submit like a guest post. And then the last thing that's pretty important on Substack is turning on your recommendations. So recommendations, everybody has it on their Substack. It's just, who do you recommend? And so in the beginning, obviously nobody was recommending me. But in going through and subscribing to other Substacks and connecting with other people, I was like, okay, I'm gonna turn on my recommendations and I'm going to start recommending people. And on the back end of Substack on your dashboard, you can see who's recommending you. And then the other people that I was recommending, they can see, oh, Claire at Memoir Junkie Wannabe Author is recommending me. And sometimes that'll prompt people to be like, let me recommend her back. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's just a nice tool to start using right away. So this is the guest writing and collaboration piece. You may not be able to do this like kind of right in the beginning, but once you start connecting with other Substacks and you just start following other Substacks and getting familiar with their content, um, you can start pitching. You can start pitching your essays, or your maybe like chapters from your memoir to you can start pitching to bigger Substacks, or you can collaborate. Um, my suggestion is always engage first, get to know the content, get to know what they're all about, and then, pitch something within that within their wheelhouse rather than, something that you really want to promote. Um I find that when you engage in an authentic way, people know it. Um and then there's also podcast opportunities. And then, yeah, and these are just some of the places where I've appeared. The editing spectrum, Amanda, she's great. She and I connected because she like commented on something that I wrote. And yeah, and then we just kind of started like following each other. And then she grew her platform really quickly. Actually, she grew her Substack pretty quickly, and she opened up like a whole section that was just for kind of highlighting and promoting other writers. So anyway, and then I appeared on someone's podcast. As you could see down here, the audio is just kind of like built in. And then yeah, the author stack. This guy had like 20,000 subscribers or something. And I can't remember how we connected, but he was generous enough to like get on a Zoom with me. And then so anyway, people on Substack, they're just, I don't know. I think they're great, and they're there to really engage with other people, and that's what I love about it. Um, Once you build your following a little bit, you can start promoting other people too. So when I joined a few writing groups, I connected with some really awesome people, and I shared some of their stories on my site. And um, the one about going to federal prison, that one got probably the most engagement and the most subscribes from any newsletter that I ever published. So I thought that was interesting because I wasn't doing it for, with the intention of like gaining subscribers. I was just doing it to share, and then that was kind of like uh the nice thing that happened. I just wanted to go back to notes. So I mentioned this before. It's kind of like Substack's version of Twitter. This is what notes looks like. So, you can like and comment and reshare, things like that. Okay, engagement strategies. So these four things kind of it's just sort of like a recap of what I mentioned. So, yeah, take the time to subscribe to other Substacks that are similar to, maybe what you're writing about. So if you're like a children's author, for example, maybe you can see if you can follow other people that write, children's books. And then post thoughtful comments. Take the time, even if it's just, 5 minutes on a Sunday morning or something. Just be mindful of doing that because people do notice. And once you get on Substack and you share your newsletters and people comment and like, it just feels nice. So I like to return the favor and do that. And the great thing is that Substack has its own app, so you can just do everything straight from your phone, which makes it really easy. And then like and restack posts on notes, and then guest posts or accept guest posts on your Substack. So these are great ways to start getting some engagement going. So this goes to the recommendation piece. So when you are on the back end of when I say back end, it just means your dashboard on Substack. It'll show you who is recommending you and then who you recommend. And so these are some of the Substacks that I recommend. And it even shows you like how many subscriptions that it's generated. And what I like to do with the recommendations is once every, I don't know, month or two, I'll go through my recommendations and I'll kind of switch it up. If I find a new Substack that I really like, I'll just start recommending them. And I think that that's, I don't know, it's just nice to be able to like switch things up and to, and to maybe have someone else see that you're recommending them and maybe they'll recommend you back. And then these are Substacks that are recommending me. And these are the subscriptions that were generated from them. And just so you know, stories about my brother is another Substack that I have. As I mentioned at the top of this webinar, yes, my brother is in prison, and I, he's a big part of my story. But I felt like in keeping with the theme of writing and my memoir, I just felt like it would be not distracting, but I just felt like it wouldn't be aligned if I just kept writing about my brother. So, and I have so much to say about him. So I created another Substack that's just about him. Um, and I would not recommend you to start two Substacks at once. It's a terrible idea. Just stick with one. Um, Again, make sure that once you start to build some content, this top portion right here, I think it's pretty important to, organize your site, and you can customize this however you want. Um, I have notes, I have writer tips because that's like a big one. Um, these are things that I've learned from like writing classes, things I've learned about like structure, dialogue, stuff like that. Chapters has to do with like certain scenes in my memoir that I want to share. And then my favorites, it has to do with just things that I really like at the time, at the moment. So it could be like other Substackers, maybe I give them a shout out. You could also tag people in those shout outs so that they see it and then they share it as well. And then Substack stuff. Oddly enough, the stuff that gets the most eyeballs on my Substack are how to grow your own Substack. So I think everyone's kind of looking for ways to constantly grow and figure out ways to expand their reach. Life has to do with life, personal stuff, and then my brother, and then my mom. My mom is 74, and she started her own Substack. So I helped her to do that. And so this is just a way for other people to be able to find her. And then this is the about. And this is the welcome blurb that Substack has. And this is what mine looks like. So this little blurb right here, you can customize that. And if you don't customize it, I think Substack has like a something generic here. So I think it's really nice to, uh, you know, when people come to your site to just to be able to see like, oh, okay, like very briefly, this is what the site's about. You can put your own logo as well. Oops. Um, and yeah, there's a space right here for people to subscribe. And Substack does all of this, like it's all built in. So you don't have to like put any buttons anywhere. There's no designing. It's great. Just to give you an example of what my welcome email looks like. This is my golden doodle rigs. It's just, personalizing it for people and just saying, hey, thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. And this is actually one long email, but I had to break it up just so that it would fit on the slide. But I included some of the things that I would love for people to click through when they first subscribe. So, bits of my memoir. Wait, are you writing a book too? And then books I love. And these are kind of things that, are popular because you can see like what, people um, are are reading on your site and what those numbers look like. So kind of a mix between what I want people to see and then what's like the most popular. And then also this upgrade is if people want to pay. So I think I set it at like $60 a year for the upgrade. And my advice here is to just put it just do it. Um Even if you don't have a strategy for how you're going to figure out paid, just do it because like you never know who's going to pay for, your stuff. And like I mentioned before, I have like 5 subscribers, I think, and I think they're all like friends and family. But you know what? Like it Substack offers it, so why not just put it in there? And then once you grow your following and once you have enough content, you can start locking some of the content, or you can start separating out some of the emails so that it goes only to your paid. And then there's like your free. And then what you could also do is you could send it out to everybody and then lock like half of the content. And if they want to see it, then they have to like pay to upgrade. But that's, if you're interested in the paid aspect of Substack. And this is I think this is one of the most important slides, honestly. Your mindset. When I first started on Substack, I had 30 subscribers. I don't have tens of thousands of subscribers right now. I probably have like a little less than like 1,000. Um, but like in the beginning, I was so fixated on this number. Like I have to have, X amount or otherwise I'm not successful in Substack, or I'm not growing it fast enough, or all of that. And I did a lot of comparisons because I was doing, research and looking to see like, who else is out there and what they're working on. And I noticed other people growing so much faster than I was. But the way I see it is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. In order for you to sustain, the your writing schedule and and just enjoying being on Substack, like it's really about like just focusing on yourself and what you can do, and just finding that engagement with your audience, and providing valuable content that you want to share with them. I think that when you kind of start to like get fixated on the numbers, that's when things can kind of go downhill. You might feel like not as motivated. So I was very mindful of that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm spiraling. Like everything has to be about like how many likes did I get and how many views did I get? And like I don't yes, those things are kind of important, because you want to see that people are engaging, but it's not everything. I think that growth takes time. It takes a lot of time. You have to be consistent. Um, in the beginning, I was doing one post a week for a good 6 months. Um, that was almost 3 years ago. Now I do a post once a month, and I still see subscribers coming in. I probably see more subscribers coming in than I did when I was doing one a week, but that's just because of the time that's that I've been on the platform. And also, I do think that there's an algorithm. So the longer you're on it, the more content that you have, the more recommendations you have, the more engagement. I think Substack kind of rewards you. And then I think the most important thing is just to enjoy the process. I think that once you stop enjoying it, once it starts to become kind of like a chore, that's when you're not gonna continue on. Because I've been there, and it started to I started to feel that dread inside every time I would have to like write something, and and I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to publish something once a week. Maybe I don't need to do something that's like this long. Maybe I can start recycling some of my content and, creating like kind of like a, hey, my most popular posts, I really want to put this in front of you. Or, hey, if you're a new writer, check out these links, and kind of giving my older stories a little bit more longevity, in that way. So yeah, and I realized once I started doing that, once I kind of scaled back, I'm like, you know what? I I enjoy, like, I want to write, and I want to share what's going on. So that's all I have for you guys. I really hope that that was helpful. This is just like a QR code that takes you back to um, Memoir Junkie Wannabe Author. And yeah, I would love to connect with you guys. That's my email. If you just want to connect with me and say hello, I would love to hear from you. And I think there's a little bit of time for questions. So if
Yes,
there's
we got a
any,
few minutes
okay.
and there are a lot of questions. I was trying to weed some
Oh,
of these out, but this is not my area of
shoot, I shouldn't have
expertise.
taken so
So,
long. I'm
ah,
sorry.
no, that's okay. Actually, the thought that just ran through my mind was I feel like, I mean, this was a fabulous overview, which is what I asked you to do. I asked you to do beginner, like introduction to it. But what we really need is a probably like a half day workshop or something where we can dig into it. So I will be reaching out to you to talk about doing like a in-depth, like longer training because there's just, I mean, there's so many cool elements of it that we just can't possibly get into, right here. But we'll try to get through. Y'all can go in and upvote the questions that you are the most interested in. I see some of them are going. That's what I'm going to use to ask my question. So if you really want to see something, let's get in there. Okay, so the first one is Patty says, if you're a new author, do you recommend both Substack and an author website or start with Substack? Or what about Substack and LinkedIn combo? So we're throwing around a couple different combos here.
I would suggest, yes, doing like just like a very simple website, which is just kind of like your author like calling card. And it has your info on it and everything. And then I would recommend Substack to let more of your personality shine, or just to give more information about like what you're working on, and kind of your experience as an author, or if you're a first time author, like what led you to this point, and just to give more background information about you.
Great. Okay. Great question from Michelle. Is this replacing all the other things, all the other CRMs, MailerLite, MailChimp, Medium, similar type platform?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I was also on Medium, and the engagement wasn't as great. I have to be honest. I don't know, there's something special about the Substack community. People are just very open, and they're like very eager to like connect. Whereas I just didn't really see that on Medium. I definitely didn't see that on WordPress.
yeah,
And so with WordPress and Squarespace, I feel like you just publish and then you're just kind of like, I hope it reaches somebody.
right.
Yeah.
What about the CRMs? Like, do you suggest if people are building that they no longer need MailerLite or MailChimp if they're building the Substack?
I guess it depends. I wouldn't say Substack is necessarily replacing those things because Substack is not a CRM, so it's very simple in the sense that, like, let's say you're an author and you really want to get subscribers to pay. So you have a goal of making like a certain amount every month. I would say that like a CRM would probably be better for something like that, just because it's better at tracking, like the numbers and your sales and things like that. Substack is more like just it just gives you like a broad overview of like your numbers, and it doesn't go terribly in depth. I mean, it is a free platform. But I know plenty of people who used MailChimp for years and years and years, and they moved everything over to Substack. So they just exported their email list from MailChimp, and they just started a Substack instead.
Yep. Okay. Hold on. Okay, this one's got a lot of votes. Thoughts on pros and cons of using your own name for the stack versus something else. That's a great one.
Um, I use my own name, just because it is kind of like a calling, like like a business. I kind of use it as like my business card in a way. Um, but if you're writing like, let's say you're writing multiple books or you've written multiple books, I would suggest just using your name. It just that way people can find you. And then if you want to create like categories to organize the things that the books that you've written or the things that you're working on, I would suggest maybe doing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like if you're running a business and your brand, I think it's about your branding. If people are going to be looking for your name or your
Hmm.
book name or your business name, and yeah. Okay, where do you find templates to use to create the page?
It's all built in. So um once you get on Substack, you just click the dashboard right here, and then um so they have a bunch of different things here under settings. It basically like you
Oh,
could
wow.
basically build your entire site just being on settings. It's that easy. Like, this was, remember the welcome page that I showed you guys? This is where I wrote it.
Huh.
Um, this is, you could set your how much you want people to pay, and I mean, it's just
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there.
so it's all under branding, and then you can edit your theme here. So there's all different colors,
Oh, nice.
and there's different templates. I don't know where it is, but it's it's very simple.
Great.
And I
Okay.
feel like I could do like a whole workshop just based
I think
on
we should.
looking through your
I really
dashboard.
do. I will definitely be in touch with you after I take a week off. And then we'll start planning the next thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask this last question because I think
Sure.
it's a really good one. So content on Substack feels so much more substantial than on other social media channels. How do you keep up with building a community with other Substackers without getting overwhelmed by engaging with their content?
Um, yeah, I agree. It can be overwhelming, but if you just focus on maybe like a couple of, newsletters, and um just try engaging there. As I mentioned before, Substack has an app, and you can pretty much do anything on the app that you can do on the site, except for, I think it's like post your newsletters. You can do things like go on notes, you can restack. Some of the easier ways to engage is honestly just to go on notes and just start engaging there. and then subscribing to other Substacks. Just subscribe to like, five, and then just see what they write about, and then like comment when you get a newsletter. And um yeah, and it honestly, it doesn't take that much time. I was doing like, 10-15 minutes, like, once a week when I was super busy, but I
Mhm.
just wanted to be intentional, and I just wanted to make sure that people knew that I was liking their stuff and engaging and commenting.
All right.
Sorry,
Well,
I don't know if that helped.
I seriously will be reaching out to you because selfishly, I think I'm going to need a deep dive workshop to get my account going and all set up. So we will get that scheduled and keep an eye out for it. Everyone who is, I know, I see your names in the chat. I know who I expect to see in there. Um, all right. This was fabulous and a great way to end our third day. So, everybody, we are going to end this one and go into back to the networking room, to the coffee chat room, where we will have our evening happy hour and enjoy the rest of our evening together. All right. Thank you so much, Claire. This was wonderful. I will be in touch and we'll see everyone over there soon.
Okay. Thank
Thanks.
you so much. I had a great
Bye.
time. Bye.